So in this lecture we're going to be looking at words connected with geography. And here are your 7 words. Temperate, arid, marine, glacier, terrestrial, fauna and flora. And here's your first word, temperate. Temperate. A temperate climate is rarely very hot or very cold. It's in the middle. It's warm, it's mild, it's not cold, it's not hot, it's in the middle. So here's a forest in a temperate climate. Things grow easily in temperate climates. The Nile Valley retains a temperate climate throughout the year. Agricultural crops thrive in temperate climates. And his report to the president was far more temperate and balanced than his earlier effort. Now, this last sentence is a more general use of temperate. So the sense here is it's a moderate report. It's calm. So we talk about temperate climate, temperate zone and temperate region, and things like a temperate rainforest. So some synonyms for temperate: moderate and mild. Balmy. Balmy, we often talk about the seaside. By the sea it's balmy because there's a nice breeze, a nice gentle wind. Warm. Restrained. Agreeable. Your next word is arid. Arid. So if a climate is arid, it's very dry, like a desert. So here's an arid area, an arid zone. Few plants can grow here because it's so dry. You don't normally get plants in arid areas. Botanists have cultivated crops that can withstand arid conditions. Farming is difficult in the arid parts of the country. And this the last sentence, the meaning of arid here is dry as in unexciting, as in boring. His history lectures were arid. They were very dull. They weren't interesting. So we can talk about an arid desert, arid land, arid conditions, an arid landscape. And some synonyms for arid: dry, of course. Barren. Barren suggests not just dry, but there's no plants there at all. There's nothing there. Bone dry. Dusty. And parched. Parched is very dry. People's mouths get very parched when they haven't drunk any water. Let's go to water now. Marine. Marine. This word is used to describe things related to the sea and water, such as animals and plants that live in the sea. We talk about marine life. So here are dolphins or sharks. I can never tell. I think they're dolphins in the sea. So they are an example of marine life. The start of the word mar actually means the sea. It's a Latin word. The Latin word mare means the sea. Coral reefs are excellent breeding grounds for marine life. They can have lots of babies there. Jacques Cousteau spent his life researching marine biology. Jacques Cousteau was a famous French marine biologist and explorer from the 1970s and 1960s, I think. Sea life centres have raised awareness of the marine environment. So we talk about marine environment and life, biology, and sometimes a marine ecosystem. So where the animals live, where the animals and plants live. So some synonyms: aquatic, coastal. There's a slight difference in meaning there. Coastal, it's just the marine life near the coast. Deep sea, so that's a long way out to sea. Maritime. saltwater, and oceanic. Oceanic. Okay, now, what's the opposite of marine? Well, it's terrestrial. Terrestrial. So the word terrestrial is used to describe things related to the land, such as animals and plants that live on the land as opposed to animals and plants that live in the sea. So there's terrestrial life and marine life. However, terrestrial also has another meaning. It can be used to describe anything to do with planet Earth, as opposed to any other part of the universe. So, we are terrestrial animals, for example. In Latin, the word terra, T-E-R-R-A, means earth. So anything that starts terra or terra is to do with earth and land. So here we are, human beings are a terrestrial life form. Although Mercury is very hot by terrestrial standards, it is cool by comparison to the Sun. So by Earth's standards, it's very hot. Terrestrial TV channels send their signals over land rather than by satellite, so you can have satellite TV. You get your signals by satellite. You can have cable TV. You get your signals by cable. Or terrestrial. Big masts carry signals over land. So we can have a terrestrial environment. Another common collocation is the term extraterrestrial, which is a life form from outside of Earth, from beyond the Earth. So if there is life on Mars or elsewhere in the universe, it's extraterrestrial. Synonyms: earthbound. Terrene is quite a rare word. I don't see it very often. And global. The next word is glacier. Glacier. So a glacier is an extremely large mass of ice which moves very slowly, often down a mountain valley. So here's an example of a glacier. You can see the mountains in the background there. Some examples: scientists report that Alaska's glaciers are melting faster than expected. During the Ice Age, Northern Europe was covered under an enormous glacier. The glacier moves down the valley at a speed of 1 meter a day. We talk about glacier melts, or a glacier melts, but also this word retreats. Retreats is similar to melts. It just means it's getting smaller. So the retreat of mountain glaciers is evidence for global warming, for example. They get smaller. A glacier moves. And Antarctic glaciers, so you have glaciers in the Antarctic. So we talk about an Antarctic glacier. Some synonyms for glacier: ice and snow. Not quite the same thing. Ice pack is closer. Of course, reading questions in exam papers may well test your knowledge of the word glacier by using words like ice pack. 2 more words to go, and they go together: fauna and flora. Here's fauna. Fauna relates to animals. Here's an example of fauna, and it relates particularly to animals in a particular area or ecosystem. So the flora and fauna of the African savanna is very diverse. So here's an example of flora and fauna going together, a very common collocation. Brackish waters generally support only a small range of faunas. Brackish water means it's not clean, it doesn't move, it's stagnant. They worked hard to protect the fauna of the Appalachian forests. So here's that collocation: flora and fauna. We often talk about the native fauna. So animals that are native to a particular area marine fauna for sea animals, diverse fauna. So some synonyms for fauna. Animal life, the animal kingdom, wildlife. And here's the other word, flora. Flora relates to plant life as opposed to animal life. So we can say things like a wide variety of flora exists in the Amazon jungle. The purpose of the expedition was to study the flora and fauna of the island. And some collocations as flora and fauna again. We often talk about a rich flora. There's lots of diverse plant species, diverse flora, native flora. And some synonyms for flora, plant life and plants, vegetation, crops. And this word, which is not commonly used, but you might come across it, verde. It's to do with vegetation and plant life. So there are your 7 geography words: temperate, arid, marine, glacier, terrestrial, fauna, and flora.